Bob Ferguson released his second political ad of the campaign cycle. And not only is it more dishonest than the first, it is genuinely offensive to our men and women in uniform. Let's talk about it in our segment, Unbelievable. Boop. All right. So let me just start by playing the latest ad that Bob Ferguson put out. I mean, you really are going to have to just, I don't know. Let's take a deep breath first. Nicole, do you want to join me?
Yes, I'm joining.
I've learned in yoga, it's in 4, out 4.
Oh, okay. Good to know.
Yoga is like CrossFit. If you're doing it, you have to talk about it.
Yes, I've noticed.
Oh, okay. All right. Bob Ferguson's latest political ad.
50th, dead last. Washington has the lowest number of law enforcement officers per capita of any state. That's unacceptable. As governor, I'll fix it. Public safety is my top priority. I'll hire more police and first responders, create a statewide response unit to tackle the fentanyl crisis, and invest the $1 billion I won from drug companies to increase treatment. Washingtonians must feel safe and be safe for our state to thrive.
Wow. Why didn't you say that for the last 12 years? Particularly the last 6 years. You expressed not a single one of those sentiments until you decided to run for governor, and you're trying to moderate your views. It's so offensive, though. You know, when you talk about, seems just aghast that we have the lowest number of police officers per capita of any state in the nation. Do you really think that that's going to be fixed by you being the governor? One of the reasons we have so many police officers leaving Washington state to work elsewhere is they feel politically supported elsewhere. They're putting their lives on the line every freaking day. And you're an attorney general who is 0 for 4 on the prosecution of police officers. So they're worried that they're going to go out, do their jobs, and a guy who would throw a police officer in prison for the rest of their lives just to score political points with his base. Like, you think they want to work for you? And one of his, key things, and you hear this from Democrats who are trying to act like defund never happened and that they never talked about it, is that they can just throw money at the problem. Like, we'll give them big bonuses, retention bonuses, lateral bonuses. You cannot buy, I've said this a million times, you cannot buy their dignity and you cannot buy their lives. $30,000 doesn't cut it. $30,000 doesn't make this a better state to work in. It doesn't make it a safer state for law enforcement to work in. And it's shameful that you would think that you can buy their loyalty and their desire to put their lives on the line for you. And again, Bob Ferguson, what did he say? Well, Seattle was talking about defunding the police. Do you remember what he said? Oh, that's right, nothing. He didn't say anything. As one of the most prominent Democrats in the state of Washington, as the state's chief law enforcer, he said nothing. And now he wants to sit here and act horrified that we have the lowest number of police officers per capita of any state in the nation. Find me, if you're watching, if you are a law enforcement officer currently serving who would love to work, not a political appointee or elected, not a sheriff who's elected or appointed. If you are a rank and file police officer, sheriff's deputy, state trooper in the state of Washington who would like to work for Bob Ferguson, please get in touch with us. undividedpod.com, undividedpod.com. I would love to hear from even one. It's you think that, what you're going to do now matters. What you have said and not said, more importantly, not said, speaks volumes. And let's also talk about, when there's ways I'm going to make the state safer. He has the audacity to suggest that he's going to help fight the fentanyl crisis and make progress on the fentanyl crisis. This is the guy who not even 3 years ago, came out, was one of the first elected officials in the nation to say he wanted to decriminalize hard drugs. He said it in a KUOW article. It's still there in print. He wanted to move away from the war on drugs, and to him, that meant, and he urged at the time the legislature that was dealing with how to fix the Blake decision, which nullified our state's felony drug possession statute. Instead of fixing it to make sure we had a statute on the books, what did he tell lawmakers to do? He urged the party in power to decriminalize hard drugs. in the middle of an overdose crisis that is killing people every single day in our state at record levels. And he's the guy who now says in TV ads that he's got a plan to deal with the fentanyl crisis. I haven't found one former drug addict or family member of a current drug addict who believes drug decriminalization is the way. Again, let's find them. If you are a former drug addict, if you are the family member of a current drug addict and you think decriminalizing fentanyl is the key to solving the fentanyl crisis, please get in touch with us. undividedpod.com. undividedpod.com. I don't think they exist. It is shameful when lives are on the line in our state. Other states be damned. Whenever I talk about the crime crisis here, people want to say, well, look at Chicago. We're way worse off than Chicago, or we're way better off than Chicago or Baltimore. I don't care about those places in those states. I care about Washington State, and our crime crisis is out of control. At the same time, Bob was over on X talking about, some violent crimes and some crimes have actually dropped in Washington State, under my leadership as the AG. Crimes where people, property crimes, nobody's reporting those anymore. You've decimated the ranks of police officers so much, people got so tired of calling 911 and waiting 9 hours to get no response that they're like, screw it. I'll just pay for it out of pocket because I can't have my insurance pay for it, because if I file an insurance claim, they're just going to drop me. That's the situation people are in, so they're just not calling the police anymore. So that, to me, honestly, I've been annoyed at Bob here and there. I don't particularly love many, if any, of his policies. I'm obviously supporting his opponent. But when you have the audacity to push out a probably $1 million ad buy to tell lies about your support for law enforcement, it's sickening. Genuinely sickening. No, I'm not going to say no, because we're going to see if anybody contacts us. I would venture to bet 99.999% of law enforcement in this state are dreading it. They're dreading the possibility of a Governor Bob Ferguson who said jack when it mattered the most. Get real. One other thing I want to mention today, we're going to cover this more in depth on the show tomorrow, but since we're talking about Bob Ferguson's dishonest ads, they have gotten so dishonest, in fact, that on July 16th, the Dave Reichert campaign sent a letter. We got a copy of it this morning to King TV and Kong TV. So that's Como, or King and Kong is like the two stations owned by King, right? And I'm not sure we're going to reach out to them to see if they've sent a similar letter elsewhere, but Bob's been airing a lot of ads on King and Kong. And the Reichert campaign sent a letter saying you have an obligation as a news entity not to allow such deceitful ads to be run. I'm just going to read a part of it. Again, we're going to talk about it more in depth tomorrow. It said, so it goes through specifically on the issue of abortion. And, Bob Ferguson running these ads claiming, Dave Reichert is going to take away a woman's right to choose, when Dave Reichert is on the record saying the opposite. And when Dave Reichert has also pointed out that he could not do that if he wanted to. He could not do that if he wanted to. So in this letter, they said broadcast licensees have a legal responsibility to review and to eliminate any false, misleading, or deceptive materials contained in advertising, including political advertising that is not actually a use of the broadcast station. Further, now more than ever, broadcasters also have a moral responsibility to refrain from airing false and deceptive advertisements. We implore you to stand up for the truth and put a stop to these false attacks airing on your stations. Based on the foregoing, we respectfully demand that your stations immediately cease the airing of this false and misleading advertisement, and further request that you reject any attempts by the Ferguson campaign to purchase time for the future airing of this advertisement, because its materials and misstatements of fact are defamatory in nature. Now, I don't know if they're going to get any traction with this, but I think trying to push back is appropriate. And I've said this, I think it's shocking, the amount of dishonesty in political ads. And Democrats aren't the only party that does that. Republicans have been dishonest in their political ads too. And I struggle with it because I'm like, what is the appropriate entity to fact check those things? It's not the government. Some people have said, we need, kind of a ministry of truth sort of thing to fact check voter guides and political ads and mailers. No, I don't want anyone involved with the government, appointed by the government or whatever, to be fact checking anything. It also freaks me out, to be honest, to have media entities fact checking something. You think they're going to fact check fairly? You think they're going to fact check a Republican ad and a Democratic ad with the same vigor? I don't think so. So I still think it falls to individual stations and campaigns to call out lies and deceit. But there is a genuine question there. What is the responsibility of a TV station when they're given an ad to air, when they sell that airtime for $350,000, probably $500,000 at this point in the political campaign, when they're given $500,000 to air an ad, what is their responsibility if that ad is blatantly false? Do you believe they have a responsibility to reject an ad, to pull an ad from the air if there's proof that the claims made in it are false? I tend to think that, yes, there's some level of responsibility there. Look, TV stations make a ton of money during election campaigns. The local TV stations will be rolling in the dough by the time November comes around. And I get it. Money's hard to say no to. But if you're a news station and you're saying, what is King 5's slogan? Oh, we stand for truth. Like, look, if you stand for truth, can you really keep airing, even if you made $500,000 off of it, an ad where Bob Ferguson is making outright false and fear-mongering claims about Dave Reichert? And I would feel the same way. If Dave Reichert puts out an ad where he's making false claims, I will be the first one to call it out on the show. And I'll even probably call him personally about it. But I haven't seen such an ad from Dave Reichert yet. And I don't think that I will.